Hello, everyone. It's Michael Jaco with Unleashing Intuition Secrets, joined once again by Chad Stewart. He's he's author of most awarded series in fiction, the Britfield novels. They're transforming literature and education while bringing entertainment and inspiration to children and families worldwide with the first of 7 movies. So not only is it a 7 series novel series, but also it's going to be 7 movies. And I think the first one is coming out November 26th. Chad, thanks for joining us again. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. We have a lot to cover. It's not just about children's series, but it's much, much more that you're presenting. Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. And it's interesting because when we launched this in August 2019, and that was like 6 months prior to the entire global shutdown. But we said that Britfield's more than a book; it's a movement, and it's a movement in literature, education, films, and media, and that's really what it is. And it's not just a national movement; it's a global movement. And I've had a lot of these conversations and even interviews last, say, week. In fact, I was talking with a German investment group this morning.
Wow.
Conservative Christian investment group, which is very exciting. They love Britfield and they want to get good content out there. And so that went very well. But they sort of get what we're about. And the series is really designed as a classic. And it's something like, sometimes, or most stuff that people do, let's say just in the United States or America, is really geared towards this area. And then you can say that with films, media, and even books. Something you write here wouldn't necessarily do well in Japan or Germany, film-wise or whatever. This is really a global series because number one, it takes place in current time. So it's not futuristic or fantasy. We're not disconnecting kids or the readers from reality. The really authentic books taking place here and now, but it's the classic story. It's the David and Goliath. It's based on family, friendship, loyalty, and courage. And those types of themes resonate with everybody, whether it's China, Brazil, you name it. And we're already, since we've launched, we're already receiving feedback globally, England, South Africa, New Zealand. There's a bookstore there that's carrying our series and we keep selling out. And I love that. Australia, I was getting an email yesterday from another school district saying, we want to order the books and stuff. So it's really exciting to see its impact. But, again, this is 20,000 hours later. This is a lot of hard work, which we were talking about. And you can get into that theme. And I am by no means any overnight success. And I've said many, many times that anything of quality always takes time. And this flashover substance world of overnight billionaires and influencers is fake and not real. And
I think that's a really good, example for children and for adults too, that really, love that part of themselves. They tap into that. And that's what I noticed with your book series as well when I read the first book. So I'm into the second book, and it's
cool.
the Rise of the Lion, which we just had, of course, the Pope, who's Leo the lion.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, interesting. So, but it took place in Paris. But do you have one that takes place in Italy?
Oh yeah, right behind me. Let me see. You recognize that building?
Oh, that's right. Okay,
St. Peter's Basilica. So book 3. Britfield and the Return of the Prince.
Okay.
Yeah, 575 pages. That we launched that in October 2022.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you got it. All right.
You autographed them. Thank you. I got all
welcome.
the series, so I got that one deal. So I'm very excited.
Book 3 is awesome because it's like we go into the Vatican and we go, and Tom and Sarah and Hunter, who's Tom's brother, younger brother, sneak in through this private library and go down, and we kind of expose, if you will, what's underneath the Vatican, and it's God. Like gold, just rows and rows of gold, ancient relics, missing parts of the Bible. Just just all kinds of stuff that's been hoarded over centuries. Yeah. And we don't go deep into it because it's like, but it's like as they're passing through and they're looking and stuff, and it's like, so it's really kind of cool because we totally expose it. There's an entire city underneath the Vatican, and so we talk about that and the expanse of it. So the timing of book 3 was kind of cool, and then book 4, which we just launched, Britfield in the Eastern Empire, we launched this in January. 437 pages, was exciting, a lot tighter now, but we can cover 11 countries, starts in Vienna, ends in Moscow, Russia, and the main theme is the dangers of AI, quantum computers, and crashing the global stock market to introduce a one world digital currency. And
Wow,
so it's
and
just
that
like, I
seems
mean,
like we're getting close to that too. That's
yeah,
very pathetic. Good job.
yeah. And again, like yourself, I've been relearning history for 12 years. I've done deep dives. And so I sort of, if you will, know most of what's going on, but that's separate. That's kind of my gig. I love history and all that kind of stuff. And then there's the writing part of it, and the literature, but they've connected beautifully. And I didn't try to do that, but because these books take place in current time, they're as authentic as can be, in real places, real locations, and real threats. This stuff just ties in, and starting in book one, we hint at this thing called the committee that's behind the scenes. That's really the puppet master of the prime minister. And we just touch on it.
Mhm.
It's kind of my Star Wars. It introduces the series. And then what you're reading now, book two, you'll really like book two, Britfield and the Rise of the Line. That's my Empire Strikes Back. It's like curtain pulled, a lot darker, a lot deeper. This is what, I mean, we talk about, it's funny too, because we touch on global nonprofits, how they're nothing more than laundromats, you know what I mean? Laundering money, and taking in, spending like, 1 cent on their mission, their mission, and 99%, 99 cents into their pocket. We talk about stuff like that. We talk about Interpol and how it's compromised from the top down, and MI6, and
Mm.
all of it. I mean, we get into it, and it's just like, it's not heavy. We don't. It's not that type of book, but it's background conversations because it's absolutely real. It fits the narrative as the story's moving forward. Tom's in search of his family, the Britfields, and it's kind of going from place to place. But I think what's so fun about this book series, and again, we can talk about whatever you want, is it's really just its scope. We're starting in England, up at Yorkshire, and then Oxford, Windsor, London, and then down to Canterbury. So we're really covering 5 major influences and pillars of society. Book one was designed that way. But England, and then boom, book two, and suddenly coming all the way through France. And then book three, you're starting in Lucerne, Switzerland, and then coming all the way through Italy to
Ooh.
Genoa to Florence to Rome to Venice, and finally Salzburg, Austria. And then now with book four, starting in Vienna, going up to Prague, and then Warsaw, Berlin, Baltic Sea,
Mm.
Lithuania, Budapest, St. Petersburg, Russia. I mean, it's just this
Oh
like
my God.
wonderful travel log, right?
Yeah.
But it's not a travel
Exciting.
book. And I'm introducing you to all these different places: architecture, culture, smells, feels, temperatures, tastes, food, clothing, and just background, thread it. But we like to call it stealth education. So while you're reading this high octane, fast paced Dan Brown meets C.S. Lewis book series, you're learning about all these different places, and these are real places,
Yeah.
so.
Incredible. And I remember when our first show was like, oh, you're American? I thought you were a Brit because you wrote so well of
Oh,
England. Of course, you did study there. So you know
yeah.
the background, all the stuff that you talked about in the book. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. You were born in Newport Beach, California. And I was like, oh, American, American can do this. But you have done the groundwork, like we talked about
Yeah.
earlier, where you went to all these different schools. And I think you went to like 23 different states and like thousands and thousands of hours traveling and talking to 50,000 students. You did the grassroots work, which basically built the foundation that has built this into what's probably going to be the most watched movie series in history.
That's what we're anticipating. Yeah, absolutely. We can dive into that. But it's interesting too, just to kind of play on that. When
Yeah.
I was done with, book one took me 4 years, 2,500 hours. So this is no overnight thing. And again, anything of quality takes time. You can't fake that. You cannot push it. You cannot rush it. But enjoy the journey, right? They say really most of it is the journey. It's like, oh, I can't wait till I get there. And finally you're there, and it's like, I don't really like the view, or it's not that, but it's getting there. It's the people you meet, the challenges, finding the courage to move forward, finding strength you didn't realize that you had. But when I was done, I had the third manuscript, book one, and this is kind of what a manuscript would look like. And I reached out to middle schools, private and public, because that's my reading audience, and just whether the principal or the dean, and said, would any of your children be interested in reading, the manuscript of a third draft novel? And they have 384-page novel. They have 3 weeks to read it, and when they're done reading it, they turn it in, and they get a little survey for 2.5 pages and fill it out. And then I'll come in, all day, like in the library, and talk to them. And so we had all these schools that were excited. We had one public school, and I think there was something like 150 or 160 volunteers, kids,
Wow.
to read this 400-page book. And we only had 30 manuscripts. So the teachers literally had to take all their names and pull it out of a hat. That's how excited
Gee.
kids were to do,
Oh,
not
that's
me,
great.
but to do something fun, to do something creative, to do an extracurricular activity. And they read it, and they had 3 weeks, and then they would fill out the survey, and we scored like a 9.03 out of a scale of 1 to 10 across the board, and all demographics, private, public, all different backgrounds. You know, some kids just love sci-fi, and this isn't sci-fi, and I might have gotten a 7, but they still liked it.
Yeah.
And then I would go in and I would talk to them, and I sat there in these round tables, 4 or 5 students at a time, no more than that, because it doesn't work that way. And I'm no longer the teacher, I'm the pupil. And they saw that, and they saw that I was sitting there listening to them. At 12 years old, their voice had matter, had reason, had meant something. And I'm taking notes, and I'm like, what else didn't you like? Or what else was confusing? And just pages and pages of notes, and making them feel valued because they're my reading audience. And so we literally tailored the book it was already a great book, but we tailored it even tighter based on their feedback, some things I was missing. I even rewrote the entire beginning to this based on the feedback from my little middle schoolers.
Oh my
I had
God.
one concept to coming at the beginning of it. Really, it was Tom, and like talking to like the reader and saying, "Oh, my name's Tom. I just want to tell you a little bit about Weatherly." And I kind of was doing it that way, and I was getting feedback, and they said, "Oh, you should do it this way." And so I changed it. You know what I mean? Because I heard it enough times, and that's how much I valued our youth. That's how much I valued someone else's opinion. There's a great quote by Emerson that says, "In everyone there is something I may learn, and therein I am their pupil." And I love that, because that's a tribute to humanity. Whether a 12-year-old child or a 80-year-old retiree, a plumber, a doctor, an engineer, a teacher, it doesn't really matter. I can learn from every single person out there. There's something I can learn. And so no longer it's about, oh, how smart I am, or I know that, then you have nowhere to go. You're never done with learning. You're never done with education. So
I love that view. I remember when my kids were still in grade school, there was like they invite the parents to come, and the dads to come and talk about their jobs. And I came in, I wore my
Navy SEAL with your background.
Navy SEAL uniform. I was at the Naval Academy at the time. So I come in, I'm talking, and they want, it was grade school at first, but then they wanted me to go all the way to middle school level, because the kids were responding so well. And so I went up, and they were asking questions, and the questions, like you're saying, were like incredible questions. And I was like, wow. So yeah, it's, if they're inspired, children, like you're doing with your book series, they can, expand themselves and, go into these realms where we're trying to get them to go. But nothing, like when I was a kid, nothing would inspire me more than a great book. And that's what I love about your books. They're very inspirational. And like you were talking about, and the last time we talked, we have the Harry Potter series, a dark side, and
Yes.
yours is of the light, and it's going to be, of course, more powerful. And that's very intriguing. Why do you think that is?
Great question. And like 1,000 things are going through my mind.
I bet.
But I was on Dave Hodges' show, the Common Sense. David Hodges, Common Sense show. I like him. Dave's great. And I think it's like the 4th or 5th time. And it's kind of fun because we kind of got deep, and we were talking a little bit about quantum physics and things like that, about you can't fake it. But he was trying to kind of articulate like an example of like the book series versus everything out there. And I said, the best way I can look at it is this way: take a group of 10 kids, and for 3 months raise them on McDonald's, and then a group of 10 kids, which is the Britfield series, and raise them on vegetables and fruit and pure juices and good clean water and all of that. And at the end of 3 months, what are going to be the difference between those two kids? And what Britfield is really doing is, number one, it's feeding their soul. It's tapping into them. Kids can never relate to Harry Potter ever, and they might sit there and say, well, Harry's an outsider. Sure. There's a level of that, an aspect. Well, he's an only child. Okay. But he's a witch. You're not a witch. You can never relate to that. And you don't solve problems with witchcraft. You don't overcome hurdles with a wand or a spell. And we said, I might have said this before in your show, but the entire market is saturated with this crap, and it's designed for 3 things: disconnect kids from reality, as if reality is so bad, the here and now; disconnect them from reality. Number 2, make them feel less than they are. Boy, if I just had superpowers. Well, you do. I mean, I think every child is amazing. Every child has creativity. Every child has specific gifts, if found and nurtured. This whole theme of genetics is complete and total bunk. That's bunk science. And there's
Right.
levels of it, aspects. Like if you were raised in a family that were musicians and very talented, you know, you would probably have more of an ability towards music. Yes, but that's more environmental than it is genetics. Some might be more astute at mathematics. There's levels to it. And if it's not tapped at something like between 5 and 8 years old, then it doesn't even matter anymore. But again, it's always this disconnect, and you're not smart. And it's like I might have mentioned this before, but the SAT test was designed for the military over 5 years, and the gentleman that designed it found out that it didn't work, and it was totally bunk, and he shelved it. And then the educational system grabbed it, and it became the watermark. And then the IQ test, designed by Alfred Binet, created the IQ test intended to serve precisely the opposite function, designed to identify children with special needs so they could get the appropriate help. It was never intended to identify degrees of intelligence or mental worth. And again, this is the lie after lie after lie. Educational system based on an industrial model, not getting creativity out of the classroom instead of putting it back in. I probably said this on your show before with the creativity statistics, but I'm just trying to find it, and I'll answer your question. I'm trying to get off on a tangent. Where are those numbers? Anyway, so here they are. Nope. Oh well. But yeah. So I think what's great about the series is, number one, because kids can relate to it, and we know that because I'm receiving that feedback, nationwide, globally, from parents, from librarians, from letters that we get from 12, 13, 14-year-olds, homeschoolers. And it's just like, I love the series. It's my favorite series. I can connect with the characters. I feel like I'm there. And I'm glad, because that's the effect it's supposed to have. Tom isn't invincible. He has his flaws. Sarah isn't invincible. She has her flaws. But they're great characters to esteem to. Sarah's probably one of my favorite characters. You read about her in book 1. You're coming into 2. She was like, went to one of the best prep schools in Scotland, and she's has kind of a fiery temper. She really speaks her mind, but she was from a very privileged world and has no idea. 2 years later, she's at Weatherly Orphanage, and this, like, oh my gosh, where's everything? Tom, grown up as an orphan, right? Hasn't had that great education, but street smarts, great character, courage, and willing to take risks. And they work off of each other, and they balance each other. And sometimes they make the right decisions and move forward. Sometimes they make mistakes, and it's like, well, we definitely won't do that again. But they continue on, and sometimes people step in and help them because we're not an island. And so it's really done in such a clever way, if you will, articulate way, through the series of situations and how they face them. And I'm bringing in this idea of collaboration, communication, critical thinking. I love some of the discussions, like in book 4, when they're in Prague and they're looking out the window, and there's a beautiful castle there up on the hill. And in book 4, one of the themes is that there's been 3 missing Britfield artifacts that were stolen by the Habsburgs and Romanov dynasties, long time ago. And if all used together, it unleashes a global map. And it's funny too, because it's about gold, and boy, isn't that a theme lately with gold. But and so they're sitting there like discussing, like, this is not like Hunter, who's the youngest. I love him because he's very smart, but he seems to be the voice of reason. Tom and Sarah in book 4 are now 15, so they're kind of off the reservations, right? 15-year-olds know everything, right? And parents don't know anything, or adults don't know anything. And it's really succinct. I like it because one of the themes in book 4 is decisions and consequences. And I love that as a main theme. The decisions we make will have consequences. Sometimes we make the right decision and it has a good outlay. Sometimes we make a bad decision and we pay for it. And that's a theme. And they keep kind of making bad decisions, and they get busted for it. But there's this great collaboration as they're planning and thinking about it. Well, that won't work. And well, we tried that before. And is this really a good idea? And should we be doing this? And it's just a normal conversation that kids are having. And I love that because it's a great example. It's not like, what's that magic spell? Or if we could just get that secret cape, or we need Superman. And if we, what I mean? It's just, it's real life places and situations. And it's teaching kids directly and indirectly, consciously, subconsciously, how to think, how to approach things. That's what we're threading through this, along with
problem solving. Yeah. And it just like when I was in the SEAL teams and then eventually in the CIA, you have these problems, you have these things that you have to solve. No one's going to come and help you. You have to solve it. And you may make the wrong choice, like you talk about in the book, and you have to progress through that. You have to work through it and continue on. And that's what I learned in the SEAL teams and in the CIA. and you're bringing that into the books so that children are learning that at their level. And of course, adults like myself that read it, I start to see, how I have, formulated my mind and, the way I come after different things that happen in my life. And maybe that'll be inspiration for other people, but you go deeper. You're talking the dangers of artificial intelligence. It's not like a children's novel. It's deep concepts that you're weaving into the storyline. So tell us a little bit about, and you have a whole list here, quantum computers, data collection, AI manipulation of stock market, push for one world digital currency, hidden. So I won't go through all of them, but you have a lot of them there. So let's start off with the dangers of artificial intelligence that you weave into the storyline.
Yeah, and that's what's kind of fun, and especially with book 2, which you're into now. We go darker and we deeper into some of these topics and subjects. Now, again, it's not a book about that, and we don't go down the rabbit hole, but we touch on it. If I'm talking about history or building the architecture of a building, I'm talking about fake wars or fiat money currency, because it's real and it ties into the story. I'm not forcing it into the story. It fits because there's a group behind the scenes in the Britfield series called the Committee that control and run world events, and they're after Tom and Sarah, specifically Tom. And again, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a reason for it. But really, the theme is just Tom and Sarah's adventure, and then the group they meet along the way and trying to find the Britfields. And then usually there's always a crisis that's happening over 7 days. But again, too, like, some of our characters, and let's just say take book 2, which you're into, we bring back Oliver, who's now 21 years old. He was an Oxford student and stuff. Big revelation in book 2 about Oliver and who his dad was, and I don't want to get into that. But he's a fun character, and he's a main character. So you got some of the sort of 20-something, good heart, like does go to Oxford, but was not doing great on grades. You know what I mean? Like he's generational. So he gets into Christ Church and stuff, struggling and stuff, but he's got a good heart. He's good at sports, so everyone, strengths and weaknesses. We bring in and introduce Kate, which you'll get into book 2. And she's sort of, she's like 22, 23. She's a computer genius, really kind of a computer geek. She's up in England, and she's like you. She's been out there, not with the face, but behind the scenes, exposing the truth. Wow. And then you have Inspector Fontaine, who you met in book 2, book 2, and she's 30-something, naturally beautiful, hardworking, smart. She's working for Interpol, independent. She's a great woman to esteem too. Sarah is a great girl to esteem too. Kate has qualities of esteeming too for the girls that are reading it, the guys. Oliver, Detective Gowerstone, Professor Hainsworth. Henry, who's in his 50s, smart, well off, and is part of a group called the Resistance, which you'll read in book 2, which never died after World War II. It's really cool. Oh, Resistance behind it is like they never went away, and you were the Resistance, right? And so it really there's so many great themes, but all this stuff comes through it. And so in book 4, we talk about artificial intelligence, because it worked. It's like over 7 days, and the committee now is what they're trying to do, as I mentioned before, is by using quantum computers and quantum encryption and AI. They're trying to manipulate the entire global stock market, not just the New York stock market, and the Fortune 500 companies, which they mostly own anyway. And what they're going to do is they're going to crash the entire global stock market, wipe out billions of dollars in wealth, and then buy it back pennies on the dollar, and then introduce a one world digital currency as the solution, right? Problem, reaction, solution. And I even say that in it: problem, reaction, solution. And
when I saw that in your write up, the things we can discuss, and you had that in there, the AI manipulation of the stock market, I have been able to call the stock market ups and downs like a boom, boom, boom. And for some reason lately, I have not been able to. And I was like, the AI, I was like, that's it. That's what's working the stock market right now. I'm not familiar with that. So I'm so glad I saw that. Now I'm going to start to readjust my consciousness to start to feel that out. Wow. Very, very good.
And it's interesting too, because I know so many people are drinking the Kool-Aid and AI is the savior of the world, and it's just another fake trinket, right? They're just plastic beads again as they're training them for land, right? You're going back to the Indians, right? I mean, it's just nonsense. I mean, number one, and so we really talk about that without going and giving away too much. We talk about the falsity of AI. And that it's not some magician and some, magical spell or the elevation of humanity, which is what they're peddling it for. And it's another lie. The devil's the father of the lies. It's another lie. And the funny kind of question that I have is who do you think programmed the AI to begin with? Humans. You know what I mean? So it's like human intelligence programmed AI. Well, AI can think for itself. It cannot think for itself. It's given parameters. It's given the information that we feed it. Oh, it creates things. I've said this before. It doesn't create anything. It plagiarizes. It plagiarizes works of art, plagiarizes literature, plagiarizes music by things that have already been done. It doesn't create it. It's not creative. And creativity is a gift of God, and the devil does not have creativity. But so we touch on that a little bit and try to get away the falsity of it, which is great. So kids are reading, adults are reading, kids are reading, book 4, Britfield and the Eastern Empire. Fun, exciting, fast-paced. My best feedback I received was from an adult that said, "I've never read a novel faster," and I thought that's pretty cool, and that's by design.
I agree. Your first novel, The Lost Crown. I went through that in a day, and I never read a novel in a day. I never ever. So that was very interesting.
That's cool.
Very, very good book. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a 15-year-old homeschooler, and she's like been waiting and waiting for the book 4, and she goes, "I got it." And she goes, "I sat down." She goes, "I finished it in a day and a half." And I just thought, I love that. I love getting kids engaged in reading. And again, coming back full circle to what we were talking about before, but isn't it great that they're reading things that are healthy to them, that's educational, that I'm not peddling some sick agenda or nefarious idea. It's just about family and friendship and courage and hope. And if you're asking me what's the main theme of all the Britfield books, it's family. It's the importance of family and what family means, and not always by blood or birth, but by friendships forged that are often even stronger than bloodlines to family. It's taking a bullet for somebody. It's risking your life for somebody. Those are the themes. That's the heart of this story, packed in a fast-paced adventure series.
No doubt. And you talk about, and you've kind of alluded to a little bit throughout the conversation, the hidden group that dictate world events.
Yeah.
So that is right from the beginning. That's what really hooked me, to tell you the truth, on the first one, because I've been exposed to that quite a bit, as you might imagine, being in the high levels of the Navy SEAL teams, and then the CIA around the world. So yeah, I've seen a lot of this stuff. And that's what turned me into, being a truther right now. And I feel that you're revealing truths in these books.
Yeah, I was going to read you a line. This is a rough paragraph from book 5, Britfield and Lost Treasure. Says, through centuries of diabolical manipulation and influence on society, the last 17 months for the committee had been precarious. Never in the history of never in their history had there been such massive setbacks, especially over the last 4 years. The pursuit of the Britfields, the true royal bloodline to Great Britain, had cost them dearly. They had gravely underestimated the resistance and had woken a sleeping giant. Although the committee knew the resistance was a threat, they had no idea their capabilities, resources, or vast organization. For the last few centuries, the committee had remained almost untouchable, concealed in the shadows and only heard in whispers. They had ran a global banking system that indebted humanity. They controlled kings and queens, manipulated politics, destroyed countries, assassinated threats, built global companies, addicted the public to pharmaceuticals, controlled the media, undermined education, and commanded the global commerce. Does that sound kind of familiar?
Yeah, that's very familiar. And that's book 5. It hasn't been released yet, right? You're writing it.
No, and it's kind of a recap. And the last line was, they even orchestrate wars such as World War I, World War II in the Middle East.
Oh, fabulous, fabulous.
This is done to eliminate national sovereignty, kill millions of innocent people, enslave humanity, and change the world order.
And that's what's another thing that was intriguing to me. There's like this undercurrent, this Britfield.
I'm sorry, can you hold on one sec? I hate to cut you.
Sure.
One sec. I'm in an interview, Mom. Apologize. I don't normally do that. All right.
Thanks. All right. So it's kind of like, what I've seen. There's this movement, it's undercurrent that's basically taking down the global, world system.
Pretty cool.
And yeah. And that's the theme I think that runs through this book as well with the Britfields.
It's paralleling so much right now
Yeah.
with history and even ahead of history. Remember, like book 2 you're reading right now, and when it came out in July of 2021, people were saying, "What are you, prophetic?" Because I was talking about so many things that were just now, and it's like, just like you, we've both been down the rabbit hole. We know that they have stuff 50, 100 years advanced, and then when it comes out, it's already 100 years old, with behind the shadows and the technology and stuff like that. And so I bring those ideas into it and stuff. There's a big scene in China about CCTV cameras, and I think there's one camera for every 2 people. There's over 800,000 CCTV cameras in China. Yikes! Wow. And what people need to realize is that they do more than, it's not just a camera and it's like, so I just wear a mask and walk differently. It's like it has 14 different markers. In fact, it's funny. I was just watching. To be inspired when I'm writing my new book series, like I'm writing book 5, I'll watch all the Mission Impossibles and I watch all the James Bond and I watch all the Bourne Identity, because it kind of sets that pace and stuff. But there was actually one scene where they're trying to break into this place, and it's like after you go through all the codes, like the retina and the fingerprint and the the combination, you have to walk through this system, and it knows the way you walk and move. And that's what a lot of these cameras will have. Voice recognition, so I could be wearing a mask and a big bulky jacket, but I'm talking to you, but boom, they pick up my voice. So there's all types of different markers that they can pick up, not just facial, but movement. There's even some that can radiate and read DNA, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. When I was in the CIA, I would go undercover and I would dress as the locals. I had a beard. I'd get and I'd have glasses like I was, older, because my beard comes in a little gray, and I wear a jacket. So I was a distinguished gentleman, and they don't swing their arms. So you have to learn not to swing your arm. And the gait, and when you say assalamu alaikum, you have to say it in a way that's like they pronounce it, because they pronounce it a different way than like American would. So you have to, all these different things. So that's interesting that you picked up on that, and there's a lot more going on there. Very cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's tough. So you have to come up with. So again, too, like what's so fun about the book series is like I'm faced with problem after problem after problem. With as they come up again, I got to figure it out. I got to solve it, but I got to do it in a very realistic way. I never suspend reality in the series, where it's just like, well, he just did this and then they were here. You know what I mean? Or, whatever. I mean, it's got to make sense. And so I can sometimes tend to write myself into a corner, because I cannot figure out what's a realistic way to get him out of this situation that makes sense and is practical and can happen. But it's fun. And I think it's again, another level of the authenticity of this series. It's like, how would you break in, like in book 4, I love book 4, it's fun. But the final artifact is hidden in the Hermitage in St. Petersburg. And actually you can see that right there. There's the Hermitage, the green,
lovely,
beautiful museum. It's like, to me, it's the most beautiful museum in the world.
Have you been there?
I've been there. I've been to quite a few.
Of course.
Of them.
That's one of my bucket lists. I got to go there someday.
Oh,
so
it's
great.
St. Petersburg's amazing, but the museum, it's like, and again, too, you're not going to go there for a day. Enjoy St. Petersburg for 3 or 4 days. Go to the museum for like 2 hours, and then go do something else, because it's like, it's so amazing. And that's how any trip to a museum should be. You walk into maybe 2 or 3 rooms and just really enjoy the artwork, and it's overwhelming, etc. And then take a break and go do something else. Then come back and into the next rooms and stuff like that. You can't take it all in, because it's too much. It's just like amazing. What's interesting, and I've said this about the Hermitage, is where you'll go to museums here, even really nice ones like the Met, and you'll see maybe 2 or 3 Rembrandts, which is incredible. You go to the Hermitage and they have the Rembrandt room. I think they have 13 Rembrandts, or the Renoir room, where they've got 10 paintings. So it's like, you go to some museums, you get 1 or 2. You go to the Hermitage and it's like an entire room. It's amazing. So anyway, Tom, Sarah, and Hunter are trying to figure out how to break into the Hermitage, get to this secret room on I think it's the 5th floor, and find this last missing Britfield artifact. And so it was kind of fun for me to figure it out. I'm literally like looking at pictures of the Hermitage. I'm looking at floor plans. You know what I mean? I'm trying to make it work where it's feasible, you know. And what they find out, which is very accurate, is they meet a professor and he has plans from when the Hermitage was first constructed. They're kind of quote unquote secret plans, where there's hidden walls and hallways, you know, throughout the Hermitage. And most castles have that. That's how the royalty would go from one place to another, sneak into their mistress, or spy on other people. And so that's one of the ways to get in, you know, behind the scenes and stuff like that. And so I use a lot of real things in it, but I have to think it out and make it. It has to make sense. Is it plausible? Could they do that? And it's a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, I noticed that when we were in England, we stayed at like these inns that were, you know, 700 years old.
I know, right?
And right across the street was like a church, and there's like, yeah, we had a tunnel system that the monks could come under and have drinks, and so
that's funny.
And so there, you'd have to like, you can't make that stuff up because it's real, and you can. It's easy. You don't have to make it up because it's real, and just weave it into these novels, and then people do research, and they're like, "Wow, this is real. It makes sense." Now, what's amazing to me is you're actually weaving in super soldiers and DNA splicing. Wow, I've never seen anyone go that far. I mean, I've gone to that level, but in a children's series, wow. Very good.
It's pretty cool. And it's interesting too, because then again, I never go too hard or deep, you know what I mean? And or what's it's scary or I cross a line. And even in sort of some of the battles, again, it's not graphic, you know what I mean? It's like someone might get shot and fall, and that's about the end of it. You know, that's what happens when you get shot and fall. And it's funny too, because it's like but anyway. But so it's kind of interesting.
I've seen that. So you get shot, you fall.
It happens. But there's a character in I think his name is Strauss, and it's interesting because in book 2 I introduced the assassin that's after Tom and Sarah. And it's very interesting too, and he has a team, and they're searching him, and they attack, and he fails twice, and he has to go in to meet with the committee in this really interesting castle outside of Paris. And again, this is all real, and it's at 13 Council of 13, and they're a round table, and he has to go up, and he's failed twice, and they say, well, drink that glass of wine. It's like a red wine, and he knows, and he drinks it and dies. Boom. That's how they reward failure. That's how the committee rewards failure. So this new person is brought in, and he's almost like 7 foot tall. And so it's where we talk about, without going too deep, super soldiers, the splicing of DNA, which they've been doing for decades, if not centuries, but like intensely. And really it's taking like the stamina of a tiger or the vision of another animal at night, the healing capacity. And they're doing this right now, and they've been doing this in human beings. And so they splice all this stuff in it. And so you get these sort of super soldiers. So it's not just about enhanced bionics, if you will, like the $6 million man. I mean, it's meddling with God's creation and bringing it, splicing and all this stuff. And so you'll get someone with freakish strength, or that has an ability, like an acute ability to hear, you know, or see at night, or heal quicker than normal, or a denser bone structure. And those are your super soldiers. It's not just the ones with the big robotics or bionics and stuff. So we talk about it. Again, it's like, I can remember distinctly, it's 2 paragraphs and 2 real quick discussions. So it's not heavy. It's not a main theme, but we touch on it because it's real, accurate, and we're planting some seeds. Most kids might read right through it. That's fine. Or adults, but it's there and it's real. And we're planting seeds. So they know.
And you're seeing that in like lots of kids these days, you know, do video gaming, and that's part of the video gaming now. So you're weaving it in there. So you had some of the children that were in, you know, doing the reading, they're more into science fiction, but you're weaving some of that in there. That's why they like the series, probably.
Yeah, and a lot of reason, and I love that. Like, one of my favorite comments was from a 14-year-old teenager in Virginia, and she just got done reading Britfield and the Return of the Prince, 575 pages, and she goes, "Love the Britfield series. It's my favorite series." She goes, "You're now up there with Lord of the Rings," and I love that we're able to compete with, you know, all these great classics, or not so great Harry Potter type of books, but bestsellers that have just
Right.
knocked it out of the park without compromising anything, right? Because all of these, even Lewis and his magical wardrobe, in which, you know, in the world of Narnia, is tapping into that magical world. We're not doing any of that. And so to compete on that level and even in many ways outflank it is incredible, because it's hard to be, and let's be honest. I mean, the magical world as a kid, fantastic. That's exciting. I do get that. You know what I mean? Like, or James and the Giant Peach. That was one of my favorite books, you know, with the magic, seeds, and all of a sudden this big peach grows up, or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You know, these are tamer, but I'm saying I get it. You know what I mean? It's enticing and it's fun. The enemy knows that. That's why they're doing it. But to compete against that and not compromise it, and to me,
Yeah.
I look at that. I look at that as easier fiction, because I'll be honest, it'd be very easy for me to create a Britfield magical world. Easy. I'd never write myself into a corner, because I could always think, oh, what was that one spell that, that the professor had told us, boom, 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 boom. Oh, great. Boom. Wall disappears. Gold coins just appear. Or, abracadabra, boom. And they freeze. I could do that. I could do that all day long. That's easy. But
Sure.
to keep this in reality and
Right.
anchored in reality and truth is hard. Again, that's why I kind of say it's like Dickens and James Bond. Dickens was the closest to it in the sense that he wrote real books in real Victorian time on real issues with real people. Just the names were changed. And I'm a big Dickens fan. I mean, he was a great craftsmanship of not only story, but characters, and tying the Shakespearean cast of characters where they're all starting out in just complete different worlds. It's, it's the maid, it's the aristocrat, it's the lawyer, it's the seaman. And somehow they're all connected at the end. And that was that brother and the son of, and it's like, he does an amazing job doing that. And then the James Bond series. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, ever since I saw The Spy Who Loves Me with Roger Moore, I was hooked. That was cool. The movies are far better than the books, and they weren't very well received at the time. And it wasn't until 10 years later with Mr. Sean Connery in the first James Bond movie that really made the series pop, and they're, but anyway, but I like the high.
Yeah,
I like
read all Ian Fleming's books, but yeah, the movies were more exciting. But I like the my mind's very creative, so I could go into those realms and those worlds, and I like that it lasted. And that's what you're doing in your book series. You're making it last, and you're making it expand, and you're going into other areas. Now you have the Britfield Dynasty, education, literature, movies, and media. That's basically what you're creating here. And you just had a theatrical play marketed globally.
Started which is exciting.
Yeah.
It's funny too. We're selling it. We're selling all the time to schools. I just got someone from Pennsylvania yesterday, and she said, I'm very interested in bringing in the Britfield school play to our theater program. And I love that, because it's, again, for us, it's getting quality content back into the schools. And so you bring in the Britfield play for your fall school, whether elementary, middle school, even high school, private, public, homeschool. You're bringing in great quality content. You're bringing in an actor's play, right? Because what's happened, and I've said this before, with most of the industry, the school system, the theater programs, 80-90% of it is saturated with musicals. And I have nothing against musicals, but what you're doing is you're alienating 90% of kids that ever want to go out for theater, that don't sing, can't sing, or don't want to sing. And you're really just highlighting a few of the main roles of the main people. And then what I love about Britfield is it's got acting roles for over 30 student actors if you want, and speaking roles, and they're incorporated all the way through the play. It takes place in current time. It's real events. It's educational, being in Britain. And, it's just a very sophisticated, fun, exciting play. 28 sound effects, 58 4 digital slides that you can project on the screen. We use the whole theater, meaning you open up with your main scene, and then and when that goes down, the lights go down, another scene comes up over here on the right. And then when that goes down, the main, and then this comes up, and then that all goes dark, and they're in the front, down on the stage in front of you. Again, never breaking the fourth wall. We'll use the aisle. We use the whole theater where you literally feel like you're there. You're in London. You're at the orphanage and the Great Escape. And it's just fun. And I'm not, there's been some great theater things out there that have done that kind of stuff, but we're just bringing the quality of this story back into the schools. And so that excites me, that we're finally, if you will, penetrating that system and and getting it in there, because it's like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I get Frozen Junior, but it's magic. I get Aladdin Junior, but it's magic. And that's how the cabal, that's how the enemy, the shadow masters, the puppet masters, that's how they work. It's very cool. It's very seductive.
They're trying to kill the creativity. They want us analytical. They give us the information that we should be paying attention to. They don't give us anything else. A lot of times that analytical information is compromised. So they're killing the creativity in schools. Tell us how this basically breaks that chain of control.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I probably said this on your show before, but it's always worth repeating. But two things. One is George Land was a researcher that developed a creativity test for the government, and it was very successful. And he took that same system into the educational system to want to see, how kids were doing, and tested, 5-year-olds, thousands of 5-year-olds, and 98% of the 5-year-olds were testing off the charts. Geniuses, little creative geniuses, 5-year-olds, all different backgrounds, didn't matter. And I noticed that too. They said, like, what's the one thing you noticed, like on my national tour of elementary and middle schools, top private schools in LA to Title I schools in Dallas, Texas, or New Orleans, kids were amazing. I never saw a difference with the fourth graders or the questions or anything, because they're born of God before they get corrupted, if you will, and drugged and everything else. So anyway, he tested the 5-year-olds, 98%. Tested the same group again at 10, it dropped down to 30%. Tested the same group at 15 years old, dropped down to 12%. And then tested a group of 31-year-old as the average, and it was at 2% creativity. And you notice that schools are basically killing creativity and getting creativity out of the mind, all by design. And yet creativity is the number one most important skill set in the world, period. It's not engineering. It's not mathematics. It's not medicine. It's not law. It's creativity. Yeah. Because from creativity, everything blossoms. From creativity, everything can shift and move. You get a degree in X, and then in 6 months, that whole industry is shifted or advanced. If you have a creativity as a creativity base, you can think outside the box. You can think differently. You can transition. You can transfer. You can do 100 other things. And then Dr. Kim did a research of over 300,000 students over a 2 to 3 decade time period. And she discovered this, that since the 1990s, schools have killed curiosities and passions, narrowed visions, lowered expectations, stifled risk-taking, destroyed collaboration, narrowed minds, killed deep thoughts and imagination, forced conformity, solidified hierarchy. As a result, children today are less emotionally expressive, less energetic, less humorous, less imaginative, less talkative, less verbally expressive, less lively, less passionate, and less perceptive. Does that sound accurate? That's what the educational system has done. And yet, on the other hand, we're in a creativity crisis, have been, but on the other end, creativity is the most important skill set in the world. And as I said before, we are actually in 3 things. We're in an educational reformation.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole old system is dying.
Yes.
We're in a homeschool revolution, and we are in a creativity renaissance. And I was on an interview a couple of days ago, and I said, I predict in the next 3 to 5 years, you're seeing the shift. Hollywood's been bankrupt anyway, and Hollywood is dead. So let's not talk about Hollywood. Let's talk about filmmaking, because filmmaking is an art, right? And great films are wonderful. We've all had our favorites. Mine, everything from, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, to the Philadelphia Story, to Casablanca, to The Sound of Music, to Star Wars, to Dead Poets Society, to The Bourne Identity. These were, to The Great Escape with Steve McQueen. I mean, classics, right? Great films, great story, great acting. So the craftsmanship of filmmaking, it was never designed that way for those that controlled it. It was manipulation, undermine society, undermine values, divide and conquer, destroy the family. But I'm predicting in the next 3 to 5 years, you will see a resurgence of family-focused, conservative movies, and that how's it working out for Disney right now? Will they ever learn? And that's why you see so many of the mergers in Hollywood or companies being bought out or coming together, because they're bankrupt. I've been saying that for decades, not decades. I'm sorry, for years. You can't keep losing hundreds of millions of dollars for a film. You know what I mean? And just, all right, next. It doesn't work that way, and the losses hurt more than the successes. And again, too, it's like people don't understand the industry. If you have By the way, the new Mission Impossible movies budget is $400 million. Wow, good luck there. But and I like the series, but
And
where's that money going?
You're a previous investment banker, so you understand this. You work for Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch. You know how to make money for others, and now you're going to make money for this whole series. How did you break away from, like you're talking about, the old Hollywood, and now you're going to create in this new Hollywood, and you're going to create on a level that's going to blow everything else away? How did you go there, and who are you using to create this?
Yeah, great question. And again, I'm probably showing this, but this is our 7th draft. We haven't been on, so like this is our 7th draft. I might have shown you the 5th draft, but I finished. I did another crack at it in February, 9 days.
Nice.
And got it from like, I think it was 144 to 142. So it's really tight. It's extraordinary. It's our finished script. It's about 18 months, but we're in pre-production. I've got a great team. In fact, I talk with them tomorrow at 9. Producers, great producer team. We've already been talking with our music talent, sound effects talent. My producer is going to be over in London next week for, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks. And so during that visit, he's going to be talking to some key contacts, people. We're already looking at our location scout. We've already done a breakdown on the entire film. We just finished our private placement memorandum, which is our capital raise for the film. Business plan is finished. We already have our directors that we're looking at. There's 8 in total, but 3 or 4 that we like. And then our actors, we got 4 or 5 for each role that we like. These are all great classical British actors. You'd recognize them in a heartbeat, but there are no A-list actors in any of this because there doesn't need to be. And so there's many facets about Britfield that's going to. My prediction is that it'll be one of the most successful films in cinematic history, and we can get into that. Number one is because there's a 90% gap for good quality content globally.
Wow.
People, and that's a fact. Family friendly focused movies are the highest grossing films in cinematic history. For every R movie that you make a PG-13, you make more money. For every PG-13 you make a PG, you make more money. For every nudity scene you take out of a movie, you make more money. For every profanity word you take out of a movie, you make more money. That's statistics. They know that. Hollywood knows that. They don't care. It's never about the money, because they can bankrupt this studio or go into chapter this and write this stuff off, and they don't care. So it's like a chess game or moving figures around and stuff, and this bank loan and write this thing off and merge over here and these, so that's why they'll spend billions of dollars getting this crap out there. Oh my gosh, it's so bad. But so number one, you have a massive gap that Hollywood is not filling and can never fill because it's not part of their mantra. It's not their agenda. Right.
It's like they have to insert wokeness in every film now. It's like a requirement. It's crazy.
Not about money. That's the point, and yes, they've had some hits. Yeah. And some things have been successful. I mean, Barbie, yikes. Awful. I mean, but I did almost 1.5.
Did you actually watch that?
No. I watched 5 or 10 minutes to get the gist of it. I didn't watch any more. And then obviously heard from friends, and I can't watch that crap, but
me either. Good man.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, you have to know what the other side's doing. So you got to at least touch on a good job.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. But again, too, they're building, I mean, number one, but I will say that with that film is what were they filling? Although not well, but what were they filling? They were filling a family family movie. I mean, parents could go, hey, take their daughter to go see Barbie. I mean, it's like, what else is out to see? And so they tapped that. And that's one of the
point. Then that's what you're saying. There's a gap. There's nothing there that's real that everybody can go see and enjoy. So they're just dropping them off. Okay, this will fill that gap, and we don't really like it, but that's what's there. And so that's why the movie industry is like hurting right now. It wasn't just the COVID lockdowns. It's because there's a massive gap in quality.
Yeah, and they'll always blame it. It's like the global shutdowns or the strikes, the writer's strike or actor's strike. And it's like, no, you've been producing crap after crap after crap year after year after year, and nobody likes it, nobody wants it. Period. Yeah, you're always gonna have a small percentage of nutters that like that stuff, but that's what I'm talking about. And while we're on successful movies, Top Gun Maverick, $1.5 billion worldwide, and PG movie, maybe PG-13. I mean, it tapped that market. And I'm not saying it's a perfect movie, but I thought it was extremely well done. I liked it. It was feel good, proud to be an American, guys being guys, no woke agenda crap. He didn't compromise anything. And what happened? You got a $1.5 billion movie. It was like number 11 or 12 at one point. And that's coming out of 35 years since Top Gun. Didn't see that coming. Right.
Wow.
It's like, yeah, I get the theme and Top Gun, and that was fun. But it's like, man, it's like, it's like, you're like old now, like how, but I love that movie. It was great. And he's smart and he knows what he's doing. And I'm not saying, not a Tom Cruise fan per se, but he has mastered the art of filmmaking. He is a great actor. And I'll be honest, I've been just rewatching all the Mission Impossible movies. And again, relatively clean. They don't go there. It's, it's trying to protect the innocent, and it's, no heightened sex scenes or any of that kind of stuff. It's like a little team that has a good heart that's trying to save society from a evil mind, and again, I'm not promoting it. I'm just saying he's smart.
Occasionally that dark side, CIA, does have to make money. So they do throw one out there occasionally just so they can throw out the other garbage, pay for it.
Yeah, it's true. But it's interesting too, because I say, if you want to know what the cabal is up to, watch either the most recent James Bond movies over the last 5 or 6 years, because the very subjects they're tapping on are the things that they're doing or introducing, and then or Mission Impossible, things they talk about. Yep, it's and again, you know how Hollywood does that, and it's to try to get you prepared or into it and stuff.
Right.
But no,
what do you think about this zombie theme that's been really, it gets a lot of views, and they've made a lot of movies. There's, on Netflix, and they have all these different shows, zombie shows. What's going on with all that?
Well, it's interesting because even in today, you almost have that right now with what's going on, with what happened, what kicked off in 2000, without saying too much, what kicked off in 2020. People's reaction to it, what people took because of that reaction to it, and what that's causing to them and in their mind, physically and humanly. 5G, they're on to 6G, what that's doing, frequency to the mind. I mean, it really is a prelude to their dream, the cabal of how they see society, what they want society. And so, while on one end, zombies has nothing to do with if I walk outside and just look at cars driving by and people, it has a huge impact, because that's what they're trying to create with society through GMOs, through frequency, through the 5G and soon 6G, unless it's stopped, through the vaccinations. What do you think those are doing to kids? I mean, are you freaking out of your mind? That's coming to an end, and those that are behind it,
the global,
it's not going to go well for them.
I think we may have seen that with the new Pope. I don't know yet. I got an expert that's going to come on, Leo Zagami, and talk about that. But nice. So I love this. I love this conversation, because you're hitting all the different points that matter to all of us, all the way down to our children. They are concerned as well, and you're giving people options, and you're giving people insights, and I love that.
I'll say too, I mean, they are smart at what they do. Like, you take, and I never watched the show. I might have watched a half an episode of, what's the zombie one? That's the series.
I didn't watch it either. There's another one that's on right now.
The Dead Awakening, or whatever it is. And I mean, hugely successful. But I mean, again, they're smart. They've got these skillful writers. They've got great actors. And you'll see that with a lot of series out there. It's like, it's a great concept. I mean, I think one of my best examples, and it was Netflix, and I've learned, I don't watch anything from Netflix anymore. Anything that they've created is just doesn't work. But it was it wasn't Soul Survivor. It was Designated Survivor with Kiefer Sutherland. And it was a very interesting premise, and I loved the woman detective. I can't think of her name. But anyway, and him and everything. And it was a really interesting series, and I liked it. And this is what they do. And they bring you and they hook you in. And then season 3, first episode, the most sickening thing I've ever seen. I mean, one of the most disgusting, vile things I've ever seen And they did all of it to do that. And I was out.
I was out too. I watched that too. I was all hooked, like you're talking about.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that was it. That was the end of the season, and they went nowhere. And I think even Madam Secretary, you know, I was along for the ride. It was kind of interesting. And then they, oh my gosh, talk about in your face when they bring in that sick witch and talking about the dangers of nationalism. But they brought in their agenda with this new person working outside her office, and you didn't quite know if it was a guy or a girl, or, you know, and I'm like, would you just knock it off? But the whole show exists for that. They don't care.
Yeah, that's it.
Why. And then sometimes it might take them a year to get there. How many times have you done that where it's like first 2 or 3 episodes of this new season? Fantastic. Oh my gosh, it's great. And then it's the new partner and his lifestyle or her lifestyle. And again, too, have you always noticed that they're gorgeous and doctors and lawyers? And that's not the truth, by the way, you know, but I mean, it's just fake anyway. So, but that they know what they're doing. I mean, it's, you know, they're good craftsmanship. They've been at this thing for decades and stuff. So, but you start to feed people's soul, like with Britfield Lost Crown movie, coming back full circle.
Very good.
You know,
very good.
It'll do so well, and we can wrap it up. But it'll do so well because number one, it's just a great story. It's going to hit all demographics. I'll be honest, and if I got just a couple of minutes as I was going through the last script, I mean,
definitely.
And
you have the global book tours coming up all around the world from 25 this year all the way through 27. So you're bringing this concept, this idea, this media to larger audiences. So you're building the foundation. So I agree with you. When the movie series comes out, it's just going to really explode all over the world.
I think when it's done, 2 hours and 10 minutes, and people would not have realized that went through. And you got the final credits coming. I think they'll just be sitting there for a moment after they clap, and you haven't seen that in a movie, and stand up and clap. They'll just sit back down, and they will not be able to believe what they just saw. That's my impression of it. Meaning, it's like it was a wonderful movie. A heartfelt movie. It was about family and friendship and courage. Nothing was compromised. Nothing. I wasn't offended by anything. No agenda. It's almost like what world am I in? What happened? You know what I mean? And that's the new bar we're setting in the industry. I think you're going to see kids getting up out of the seats during the movie, like clapping or cheers. You're going to see parents cry and laugh and cheer. And that's what's going to happen with this movie. We're going to knock it out of the park. And this is going to translate into every freaking language in every country. And you're just going to see a new bar set. And see, that's the way you do it. You know, you set a new standard that's hugely successful. And so the rest either follow that because their old system doesn't work or they fade away. And so you either get your R movie to PG-13, or you start getting all this disgusting agenda crap that no one wants, or no one's going to go see your movies anymore. So.
Absolutely. And people can find you at Britfield.com.
Yeah, the best place to check us out is our website. It's an award-winning website. It's exciting, fun, interactive. If you do purchase the book Britfield series, they're great gifts, again, for kids, for grandkids. Oh, yeah, there it is. Even adults. I mean, 55% of our reading audience are adults. So just fun gifts. Just give them book one. You can get them the four book special. They're just wonderful, and I'm signing the book. So if you go through the website, I'm still signing books. I signed about 80 to 100 yesterday morning. I signed another 100 books.
Sweet.
Monday. I won't be doing that much longer. I think my cutoff is about 6 weeks, where we'll just translate everything for the website over to either Amazon or something else. Just because I don't have the bandwidth to sign books anymore, or the time. But I do enjoy doing it, and just as I as an author love getting a signed book from an author. It's personal, and it won't be around for much longer. So it's a great thing to stock up on. It's a great summer read, or even a pre-Christmas gift. So,
yeah, and you know, I got my signed copies. Lovely.
Oh,
lovely.
and the sticker and the bookmark.
I love that. I love bookmarkers. I was like, wow, and a bookmarker. So
it was cool.
Really good.
If you know Hagman. Cool. The Hagman Report, Doug Hagman, he's been in the game for about 15, 20 years. He's great. Yeah. He's out of Pennsylvania. And I've been on his show a couple of times, and I sent him a book and stuff, and he has a sticker in the window of his car. And I thought, how cool is that? Like, he goes, like, people stop by and say, like, oh, is that your Royal Crest or something? And I thought, I love that. You know, like, that's cool.
That's good. Yeah.
In fact, we have one of the women that's involved in our music for the film. She goes, I want a Britfield hat. And so it's like, boom, I sent her a really cool Britfield cap, and now she's wearing that,
Oh, cool. Yeah. Very good. Very good. So you have a clothing line too?
We will. Yeah. I'll be honest. I mean, it's
Good.
funny too,
Smart.
because one of my areas of, I wouldn't not so much say expertise, but passion is products, quality products, and fashion, in the sense of like we're already developing the Britfield plaid. In fact, I've already developed it, and so soon I'll be licensing it with Scotland. So think of Burberry, or think of the Black Watch, or all those Scottish tartans. That's what we've created. We've created Britfield tartan, and we'll register that. So that'll be
nice.
Blended into a lot of things. We'll be doing some really cool stuff with eventually with clothing, and then obviously products. We're working on the Britfield board game now. Obviously, we'll do online stuff soon. In fact, I'm talking with a big group out of India, on that side of it, and it's like there's just a lot of things that are happening in the world of Britfield right now, which is exciting. So,
wow, Chad, so great to have you back on again.
It's always an honor.
To future shows, so we can go deeper into, because we went deeper this time. So I know there's a lot of depth here. So I appreciate what you're doing and what you're bringing to consciousness. We need more stuff like this, and I know the audience is going to love this show. So thanks a lot.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a great week.
You too.